authentication and authorization. Firstly, let's recap. In the previous session, we have seen the authentication flow in React, where we understood about how to store the JWT token and also handling the login figure. We also have seen about handling the route redirections. So there are two scenarios, authenticated scenario and unauthenticated scenario, where in case the user is authenticated and is trying to access the login route, then we are redirecting it to the home route. Okay. So in case if the user is unauthenticated and if he's trying to access the home route, then we are redirecting them to the login route. Okay. So we have handled these route redirections. Then we also understood about React router. In that we understood about with router. Okay. Now coming to today's session. In today's session, we are going to understand more details about the router switch, where we can include user-defined component and also the redirect. So we'll understand about them. We'll also understand about the wrapper component, and then we'll integrate an API, which is Get All Products API. Okay. So let's get started. To set the code diagram for today's session, you need to run this command and then npm install, then all the dependencies will get installed. Then run npm start and you'll be able to see an output in this manner. Okay. So now let's understand more details about the router switch. Okay. So the switch can include any React component. Previously within the switch, we have written the route components, right? So similarly, we can have user-defined component and also redirect component. Let's understand these with the help of an example. So here you can see within the switch, we have the route components, right? So then you can see at the end we have route component equal to not found, right? Instead of this, we can directly mention the user-defined component, which is not found. Okay, so there you can see not found is a user-defined component, that is we have defined it, and then we can directly specify that there in this manner. So what exactly happens in this scenario? Okay, so firstly within the switch, so each path will be checked of each of the route component. Okay, so in case if none of the path matches, so then the not found component will be rendered. Okay, so there you can see the output. Let's give this a try. So here, so firstly, I'll open the app.js file. So here you can see I have the switch. So this is the router switch. Within this, there are different route components, right? Previously, we have written it in this manner. So in place of route component, we can also specify user-defined components. So here you can see, right? We have written route component equal to not found. So instead of this, we can basically directly write not found, which is a user-defined component in this manner. Okay, so what exactly happens here? So within this, each path, okay, the path that we have accessed, so it will be checked with the paths here. So whether it matches with /login or /products or /cart. So if there is a match, then the corresponding component will be rendered. In case if there is no match, then the user-defined component, which is here, will get rendered. Okay, clear? So we understood this, right? Okay, so let's give this a try. So this is our app. Okay, so here I'm trying to access a path. So obviously there is no route defined for this particular path. So then you can see the not found component has been rendered. Okay, so we are done achieving this. Okay, so within the switch we can provide any React component. That could be route, that could be user defined component, or it could be a redirect component. So let's see an example for the redirect component. So there you can see, instead of specifying the not found user defined component, you can also provide a redirect component then. Okay, so there you can see, so we have defined a route. So the path is /not-found. Okay, and for that the corresponding is not found. Okay, and in case if the path doesn't match with any of these, we want to redirect the user to the not found path. So there you can see we have specified the redirect to and then /not found. Okay, so if the user is trying to access a path which is not defined there, so then automatically he'll be redirected to the path /not found, and then the not found component will be rendered. Okay, so let's have a look at that. So just like how we have specified a user-defined component, similarly, we can specify here a redirect component. Okay, so redirect, okay, to, and we can specify the path to which we want to redirect, and that's it. Okay, so let's define a route to the not found. Okay, so exact path equal to /not-found. So we are defining a path /not-found, and the component that needs to be rendered for that is not found. Okay, so in case if the user is accessing a path which is not present here, then we want to redirect the user to the path /not-found in this manner. Okay, so let's import it. So from the React router DOM, we have to import the redirect. Okay, clear? Now let's give this a try. So now let's try to access some random path. So then automatically the user got redirected to the not-found path, and the not found component has been displayed. Okay, clear? So in case if you are accessing some other path, say cart or something like that, so then appropriate component will be displayed. So in case if you are using a path which is not defined there, so then it will be redirected to the not found, and the not found component will be displayed. Okay, clear? So we understood that within the switch, we can provide any React component that could be a user-defined component or a route or a redirect component. And we have seen this output, okay, where when the user is entering some random path which is not defined, then he's being redirected to the not found path. Okay, clear? So now we understood a lot of details about the router switch. Now let's continue building the e-commerce application. Okay. So in the previous session, we have added this routing redirections, right? So in case if the user is unauthenticated and if he's trying to access the home page, then we are home route. So then we are redirecting the user to the login route, right? So that's what we are doing. So now what we want to do is we want to add this redirection logic to the other routes also, okay? So there is products route, there's cart route. So for all of these also, we want to add this redirection logic, okay? So previously we have done it for home. So if the user is not authenticated, then we are and trying to access the home route, then we are redirecting to the login route. Similarly, we want to add that redirection logic to the products route, to the carts route. Okay. So now coming to the redirection logic. So let's observe the home component. Okay. So what did we do for the redirection? So firstly, we access the JWT token from the cookies. Okay. And we checked if it is undefined. So if the JWT token is undefined, then what does that mean? So there is no JWT token in the cookies. That means the user is unauthenticated, right? So in case the user is unauthenticated and is trying to access the home route, then what do we have to do? We have to redirect to the login route, right? So there you can see we are redirecting to the login route. So this is the redirection logic that we have added. Okay, now we want to add this redirection logic to the remaining routes also. Now if the user tries to access /cart, even then we want the redirection logic to apply. So if he's trying to access /cart and if he's unauthenticated, then we have to redirect to the login route, right? Similarly for products, similarly for the other routes. Okay, so the logic is the same, right? So the entire logic that we have to write is the same. So that could be in the home component or that could be in the cart component. So the redirection logic is the same. So now the logic is the same. We have added it to home. Now if we want it for cart, we have to add the same piece of code again to the cart. And if we want to add it to the products, again we have to add the same piece of code to the products component, right? In this manner. So do we have to write the same piece of code for each and every component where we want this logic? Is this a good practice? It's just same piece of code and it has to be repeated in different components. So there's a lot of duplicacy, right? So in home, it's the same piece of code. In products, it's the same piece of code. In cart, it's the same piece of code, right? So is there a solution? Can we avoid this duplicacy? Yes, we can do that. So we can make use of the wrapper component. So we can actually write a wrapper component which will include that common piece of logic. So for the home, for the cards, for the products, for all of these, so there is a common piece of code, the redirection logic. So we can write a wrapper component which will include that common logic for all these routes, and we can include the route. Okay. So with this, the duplicacy will be removed. Okay. So let's understand how to write this wrapper component. Okay. So here you can see that we have the home route. So for this particular route, firstly, let's start writing the wrapper component. Okay. So let's assume that protected route is our wrapper component. So let's start with that. So there you can see we have written a protected route. Okay. So there we are returning the route. Okay. The home route. Okay. Additionally, we also have to add that common piece of logic, right? Which is nothing but the redirection logic. That is accessing the JWT token and checking if it is undefined. So in case if it is undefined, redirecting to the login. In case if it is not undefined, then we have to display the home component, right? So that is the route. So we have to route to the home component. So that is what we are doing at the end. Okay, clear? So this is our wrapper component. Okay, so now we have added that redirection logic into the wrapper component. So we no longer need to add this into the home. So in the home, there's no necessity of this redirection logic. So we can directly remove it. Okay, so now we are done with writing the wrapper component. So now instead of writing the route, we will replace it with the wrapper component which is protected route. Okay, so instead of route home, so we are displaying the protected route. Okay, clear? So now what will happen? So firstly, within the switch, we have the protected route. So if the user is authenticated, so then he will be navigated to the home route. If the user is not authenticated, he'll get redirected to the login route. Okay, so let's do these steps. Okay, so now what do we want to do? Okay, so for different routes like products, cart, for all of these, we want to add the redirection logic. So in the home, previously we have written the redirection logic where we are accessing the JWT token and checking if it is undefined. If so, we are redirecting to the login route. So we want to add this particular redirection logic for each and every route. So to avoid the duplicacy, we have decided to write a wrapper component, right? Which will hold this common logic and appropriately will get redirected to the home or the products or the cart. Okay, so let's start writing the wrapper component. So here you can see we have the protected route. Already this folder has been created. If not, you can create it. Okay, so this is a new component that we are writing, but it is a wrapper component because it has some common logic and also the route. Okay, so now within the protected route, so I have index.js file. So now I'll start writing the protected route component. Okay, so now I'm going to write a functional component for it. So protected route equal to. So now within this, what do I have to do? Okay, so there is some redirection logic that has to be added. Okay, so it's already present in the home. So I'm going to just copy that, add it here. Okay, and there's some imports that I have to do and I'll add those imports too. Okay, so here we are done adding the common logic. Okay, so which is the redirection logic, and then we also have to write the route. Okay, let's do that step. So firstly, let's write the wrapper component for the home route. So we'll specify the route, home route here. So here you can see this is the home route. So let's just return this. So in case if the user is authenticated, right? So then we want to return the home route. So in case if the user is not authenticated, then we want to redirect to the login. Okay, that is what we have written. Now here we have home. We are making use of the home component. So we have to import. Okay, so import home from /home, right? And also we have to import the route. So let's do that. Okay, it's done. So then now let's export this protected route so that we can make use of it. So export default, and then we'll specify the protected route. Okay, cool. So we are done with writing the wrapper component. So now let's make use of this wrapper component, right? So where do we have to include it? So instead of this route, we are going to specify this wrapper component, which is protected route. Okay, we are going to make use of this. So now let me just import that. Protected route from /component/protected route. Okay, so we have imported the protected route and we are making use of it. Okay, so instead of writing the route directly, so we have added a common piece of logic that has to be executed, and then we have mentioned the route there. Okay, so you understood the logic there, right? So there's a common piece of logic, and in case if the user is authenticated, then we have the home route here. Okay, clear? So now we have made use of the protected route and everything is ready. Okay, so now let's. So since already I have logged in, so that's the reason I'm able to access the home page. So I should get redirected to the login, just like how it happened now. Okay, if I'm trying to access the home, I'm getting redirected to the login. Okay, so we are done with this step. Okay, so we are done adding the wrapper component to the home route. Okay, and we were able to see this output. So in case if you are trying to access the home when there is no user present, so then it's getting redirected to the login, right? Okay. So now let's proceed further. So far what we have done, so we have written the wrapper component just for the home route, but we want to make this wrapper component, this protected route, a reusable one. Okay, we want this protected route to be reusable. That is, we want to make use of this for the products, for the cart, for the other routes as well. Okay, so what can we do? Okay, so let's understand that. So if you observe the protected route, so here you can see this is a common logic which is common for all the routes, and here we for products, for the cart, for all of these also we have to display the route itself. So the only difference that is occurring is these values, right? That is the props that we are passing for the route. Okay, so we have the exact, the path is being varying, and the component that needs to be rendered is also varying. So only these values are varying, right? So the remaining others all are same. So now to make this protected route a reusable one, what can we do? So the values that have been changing, if we pass them as props to this component, so then this protected route would be a reusable one, right? So let's do that. Okay, so here you can see. So for the protected route, so we want to make this as a reusable one for the other routes as well. So we are passing exact, the path, and the component as props to the protected route. That is the wrapper component. Okay, so now within the protected route, we'll access these props and we'll specify them to the route component. Okay, so then this entire protected route would become a reusable one, and we can make use of this for the products, for the cart, for all the other routes, right? So here if you observe, we have made use of the spread operator. Okay, since we have passed props, so the props that we have to specify as individual ones to the route, so we are making use of the spread operator so that the props object will be appropriately passed to the route component. Okay. So when we make use of the spread operator, so when we have these curly braces, spread operator and props, so that would be equivalent to writing route exact path equal to slash and component equal to home. Okay. There's one point to note here. Okay. There is exact. So far what we have seen when it comes to props, there is a key equal to and there is a value. But if you observe the exact, so that's not the case here, right? So this is actually called as a Boolean attribute. So if you don't provide a value there, so it would be considered as exact equal to true. It's equivalent to writing exact equal to true. So when you provide an attribute in this manner, just like exact, okay, without any value, so that is considered as a Boolean attribute and it's equivalent to writing exact equal to true. Okay. So with this, our wrapper component will become a reusable one. We can make use of this for the products and even for the cart, okay, and for the other routes. Okay, let's give this a try. Okay, so now as we understood here, if we can pass these as props to the protected route, then this entire wrapper component, the protected route, will become a reusable one. Okay, so let's do that step. So coming to the app.js, so here for this particular one, so we are going to pass these as props. Okay, so in the app.js for the protected route, I'm passing these values as props. Now coming to the protected route, so here I'm going to access the props. They'll be passed as an argument to the functional component. So now here to pass these props to this route component, we are going to make use of the spread operator and write it in this manner. Okay, it would be equivalent to that. Clear? Okay, so done. Let me save this too. Okay, so now we have made our protected route a reusable one. Yes. Okay, so now let's try to access home. And then you can see it's being redirected to the login. So the functionality remains the same, just that we have made this a reusable one. Okay, we have made this protected route a reusable one. So since this is reusable, we can make use of it for the products route and for the cart route. So there you can see, instead of writing route, so we are making use of the protected route. Okay, so then what will happen? That common logic, the redirection logic, it will be executed for the products route and also for the carts route. Okay, for the cart route. Okay, clear? So that's it. So now whichever route we want. Okay, so if you want to add redirection logic, then we can directly make use of the protected route. So then with this, the redirection logic will get applied and appropriately, if the user is authenticated, he'll be redirected to the appropriate route. Okay, clear? Let's give this a try. So our protected route is now a reusable one. Now let's make use of it for the products and for the cart. Okay. So for the products and for the cart. So now we are making use of it. So we are passing this path in the component. Appropriately, the route will be updated and we'll be able to see it. So now you can see now if I try to access products, okay, so we are getting redirected to the login. And if I'm trying to access cart, right, so again we are getting redirected to the login. So previously when we haven't used this, okay, let's say it is route, okay, so then if you are trying to access products or say cart, okay, so then we are going into the cart, right? But the redirection logic has to be applied. So that is the reason we have made use of the protected route. So now if I try to access cart, so what will happen? I'll get redirected to the login. So appropriately, the redirection logic is being applied to the routes that we want. That is to the products route and for the cart route also. Okay. So we are done with these steps and we have seen this output, right? So if you are trying to access say cart, even then we are getting redirected to the login. And if you are trying to access the products, even then we are getting redirected to the login. And then even in case of home, okay? So we have seen this output, right? So appropriately we have added the redirection logic to the various routes that we want. And then, so instead of writing it multiple times, we have made use of the wrapper component and appropriately we have written it in the optimized way. Okay, clear? So now let's integrate few APIs for our e-commerce application. Okay, so firstly, let's have a look at our products route. Okay, there you can see we have the products route. So within that, we have two sections. The first section is Prime Deals section. The next section is All Product section. So in the Prime Deals section, the exclusive Prime Deals will be available, whereas in the All Product section, all the list of products will be available there. Okay, so now, when it comes to the website users, right? So we have Prime users and we have non-Prime users, okay? Generally, if you take Amazon or e-commerce applications in that manner, so there'll be Prime users and non-Prime users, right? So for Prime users, there'll be some exclusive deals available, whereas in case of non-Prime users, that won't be the case, right? Similarly, even in our case, so For the Prime users, there are exclusive Prime deals that will be available. Whereas in case of the non-Prime users, so that won't be the case. Okay, there you can see. So for the Prime users, there is exclusive Prime deal section on the top, and then all the products have been listed below. Okay, whereas in case of non-Prime users, so all the products are directly listed there. So all product section is common between Prime and non-Prime. Additionally, for the Prime users, so we have exclusive Prime deals section. Okay. So now, for this, there are two APIs that will be involved. So to get all the products, so that would be the Get Products API. And to get the exclusive Prime deals, that would be another API. Firstly, let's have a look at the Get Products API. Okay. So this API, obviously, we are fetching details, so it would be a get. Okay. And coming to the URL, it is apis.ccbp.in/products. Okay. And in the response, we'll get the list of products that will need to be displayed. Okay. Clear? So now, coming to who has access to this API. So both Prime and non-Prime users who are authenticated can access this Get Products API. So as we understood, this all product section is common between the Prime and the non-Prime users. So Prime and non-Prime users both can access this Get Products API. But what is important? They have to be authenticated. Okay, so the user has to be authenticated, and only then he'll be able to access this particular API. So now, how do we check whether the user is authenticated or not? So, as we previously understood, so we'll be sending the JWT token in the authorization header while making the API. Okay, then on the server side, right, the server will check the JWT token, whether it's valid or not, and appropriately it will send the response. Okay, clear? So what do we have to do as on the client side? So we have to send the JWT token in the authorization header while we are making the API request. Okay, so now let's start writing the API. So if you look at the component all products section, so this is a component that we are referring to, where we are going to display all the products. Okay, in the state we have the products list as empty. Okay, initially it's an empty list, and once we make the API and get the list of products, then we can update the state, and appropriately the entire UI will be updated. Okay, clear? So now let's start writing the API. So there you can see we are write the API in the component did mount. So then we have the method get products. Okay, within that we have written the API URL, so which is apis.ccbp.in/products. And then we also have to provide the options. The method is get. Okay, and additionally we also have to provide the authorization header, right? Since the user has to be authenticated to access this API, so we have to pass the JWT token in the authorization header. So there you can see in the options we are specifying the headers, and there you can see we have authorization bearer space, and we are specifying the JWT token. And how are we getting the JWT token? From the cookies, right? So once the user is authenticated, we store the JWT token in the cookies. So we are accessing the JWT token from there, and we are adding it into the header, right? Now we have the API URL, we have the options, we have to just pass them to the fetch and make the API call. There you can see. So await fetch of API URL and the options. So with this, we will get the response. Okay, clear? So now let's write the API. So here, now let me first log in here. So here we have the products. So you can see we just have all products heading, and no more products are displayed here right now. So there are no products here because initially it's an empty list. So now let's start making an API call and get. Okay. So here in the products, so we have the all products section. Okay. So this is where we are actually going to make the API call. Let's go to the all products section. So here you can see we have the index.js. Okay. So here initially the products list is empty. So that's the reason here there are no products being displayed. Okay. And then you can see here that based on the products list, we are rendering the list of products. Okay. Now we have to make an API call and get the list of products. Okay. That is what we have to do. So where do we make the API call? In component did mount, right? Component did mount. So within that we have to make the API call. Let's have the method this.getProducts. Okay. So get products, which would be an arrow function. So now within this, we have to make an API call. Okay. So firstly, let me write the API URL. Okay. Which is https://apis.ccbp.in. Okay. And then /products. Okay. So this is the API URL. And now coming to the options. So firstly, here we have to specify the method as get. Okay, so yeah, this should be capital. And also we have to specify the headers, right? So we have to specify the authorization header. So that would be headers would be an object. Within this, we have to write the authorization. So now coming to the authorization, so it would be bearer, and then we have to specify the JWT token here. Okay, so here you can see we have written the API URL, and then we have written the options. The method would be get, and the headers in the authorization we have to provide the JWT token. Now, how do we get the JWT token? So we'll get the JWT token from the cookies, right? Dot get off, and then the key is JWT underscore token. Okay, clear? So with this, we'll get the JWT token. Okay, we have to import the cookies. So let's do that. So import cookies from the JS cookie. Okay, clear? So now we have the JWT token. We have to provide that into the authorization header, and there you can see, right? Now we have the options available. Okay, so now let's make the API call. We are going to use the fetch method, provide the API URL and the options, and then this will return a promise object. So we'll await on that, and finally we'll get the response. Okay, so now since it's await, we have to provide async. Okay, done. So we are done writing the API call, and in the component mount we are calling this API also. Okay, now let's check this. Okay, so let me do an inspect network. So what we'll do is I'll just display it here in this side, it'll be easy. So now let's just refresh this page, and you can see we have the API call that's been done. So here select the firstly, the API that we are using is products. Okay, there you can see we have two. Out of this, you have to select the one with the type as fetch. You can see there's a column type. So in that, we are making a fetch request, right? So you have to select this one. Okay, so just select this. Okay, if you click on this, you'll be able to see that status code is 200. That is, the API call was a success. Okay, now coming to the response, here you can see we got a list of products here. There you can see that list of products, right? So this is the response that we got. Okay, clear? Okay. So we have done the API call and we got the response. So in the network panel, in our Chrome developer tools, in the network panel, choose the products with the type as fetch. So then you'll be able to see the status code as 200 in this manner. And then in the preview, you'll be able to see the list of products which have come as a response. Okay, right. So we got the list of products as a response. Now what do we have to do? We have to appropriately set the state with this products list. Okay, so there you can see if the response.ok is true, that is if the API call was a success, then we are converting the response into a JSON. We are fetching the data, and then since we already know that we have to convert the snake case to the camel case, so what we are doing is we are updating that fetch data. So fetched products, so we have the fetch data dot products dot map of product, and there the title is being updated, brand and price ID. In case of image URL, so we have to convert the snake case into camel case, right? So it is image underscore URL, we have to convert that into this. So we have appropriately updated, and the rating. Okay, so with this we have the updated data now. So now what we have to do? We have to set the state with this updated data. So there you can see. So in the state, we are updating the products list with the updated data. So with this, we get an output in this manner. Okay. So let's give this a try. So here we are doing this API call here, right? And we got a response. So the next thing is based on the response, we have to update the state. So in the state, we have the products list. So we have to update that. So firstly, if the response.ok is true, okay, that means if it's a success, so then we have to convert it into a JSON. So let's call that fetch data. So we are awaiting on the response.json in this manner. So with this, we'll get the fetch data. So another step is, so here we have to convert the snake case into camel case. So let's update that in that manner. So updated data equal to fetch data dot products. So if you have previously seen the preview, right? Within this, we have the products key, and the products key's value is a list of products. So that's the reason we are writing fetch data dot products. Okay, now we have to update this. Okay, dot map of. Okay, so we'll have each product should be appropriately updated. So the different details present here are title. So product dot title. Okay, similarly, there's brand. Okay, and then what else do we have? Okay, we have price. So you can actually view the output and appropriately check. So here you can see we have title, we have brand and price, and then there's ID. You can appropriately expand each of these and check the camel case and snake case and appropriately update. So I have already updated the brand and the title, price. So there's rating, image URL, and ID left. Okay, let's do those. Okay, so there is ID, Okay, product.id, and then there's image URL. So in case of image URL, it should be in snake case, in camel case, image underscore URL. So we got it in the snake case, so we have to convert it into the camel case. Okay, so next also we have the rating. Okay, so that's it. So we have appropriately updated these, right? Okay. So what else do we have to do? Okay, so once we have the updated data, so what do we have to do? We have to appropriately update the state object. Okay, this dot state of, and then we have the products list, right? So products list colon the updated data. Okay, so here we have to provide this. So it's just the formatting. Okay, so we are updating this state. Okay, so with the list of products that we got in the response, right? So then what will happen? The state got updated, so the render method will be called, so the render products list will be called, and where from the state we are getting the products list, and appropriately we are displaying each of the product. Okay, clear? So now let's have a look at the output. Okay, this is this dot set state. I've just written state. So now you can see, right? So we have the list of products here. Okay, there you can see. We have a lot of products here. Okay, cool. So we are done integrating an API and appropriately displaying the output, right? We have seen this output. Okay. So here, let's understand few most common mistakes while fetching the data. Okay. So as we understood, right? So to access the get products API, the user has to be authenticated. So to check whether the user is authenticated or not, so what do we have to do? We have to send the JWT token in the authorization header, right? So if we don't add this authorization header, right, then what will happen? So obviously the server cannot check whether the user is authenticated or not. So then we'll get a 401, which means that user is unauthorized. So if we get the status code as 401, it means that the user is unauthorized. Okay, clear? So if we don't provide the authorization header, so then our API call will fail. So it's important that you provide the authorization header in the options and send it to the fetch method. Okay, clear? Right. So now what you could do is you can try adding a loader to the component while fetching the data. Okay, let's say we are accessing the get products API, right? So when the API is in progress, you can try to add a loader there. Okay, so do give this a try. So now we are done with the get products API. Okay, so in the next session, we'll cover about the remaining one. Okay, so coming to what we have covered in today's session.